Hello and welcome to our EV meeting. Here you can see who is presenting tonight. It's a very long presentation or meeting, so if you don't want to watch the whole thing or listen to it, just pick out what you want to look and listen to.
Nissan's Technical Center hosts us gratis, so it is something we really appreciate. And if we can, just give Nissan a round of applause. Hopefully Bob will hear that. And we haven't worked out the final mechanical details, but the pizza and the soda that all of us are consuming is courtesy of EVgo. So thank you, Ethan and EVgo. All right. So here's the agenda. So everybody kind of get a sense of what we're going to be going through and the order. And we have all of our speakers, so we can stay with the order that I planned. And moving to this next slide. Okay, before we transition to talk about our needs for board members, let me give Jorge 1 minute to pitch his magazine. And, you know, again, as a professor, he'll be able to project pretty well.
Okay, with the mic, okay, much better. Anyway, this has been my baby for 5.5 years. I've been working on this, and this is my retirement project. And it's promoting electric vehicles, not just a Tesla car. There's other cars in here that are electric vehicles. And I do put a disclaimer so that Tesla Motors doesn't say that I've infringed on their Tesla, okay? But anyway, since I was a college professor, I made it also English and Spanish. So you flip it around, and I'm hoping that maybe this could be used to create awareness in maybe some of the elementary schools and public schools, and it's for all ages. So I'm trying to get an idea of how many people might be interested. If you want to leave me your business card or you want to fill out one of those yellow cards, I'll let you know. It should be maybe out in a couple of weeks. So I hope you support this project and spread the word. This is one way to maybe educate the public on not only electric vehicles, but other things that have to do with ruining our planet. Okay, so thank you very much for the word.
And Jorge and I are both retired Sac State professors. And again, for those of you without the Spanish background, we're both Jorge because Jorge is simply the Spanish version of George. So, and for a while, we both had red Teslas, Model S's. Well, you know, fortunately, there are more of us English speaking, so we have to address the majority. But you're right. Right now, but it's changing. Okay, so here's where we are. We, in terms of the board, this organization works on the shoulders and blood and sweat of really a very small handful of people. In the past, it's been a martyr effort on basically Guy Hall. And without Guy, this organization would never have the impact, the outreach, or the connections that it does have, because we really are well connected throughout the community, throughout the political sphere, because of his efforts and because of the efforts of what was really an amazing group of board members back in the years 2008 and even before Guy and I ever came into this community. To continue that kind of outreach, we need more board member energy. We have a number of board members that are helpful, that are involved, but we really do have, and lost this past year, a couple, 3 people that simply had their terms run out and had spent 5 or more years on the board. So we can survive, but we will be handicapped if we do not have at least 2 or 3 more board members that have time and energy and understand that this activity, in terms of what has already been achieved, is still a serious work in progress. And that in California, we're at about 2% of market. That's still not the tipping point. And in order to get up to 5 to 8%, which probably is a statistical tipping point, we still have a lot of work to do, and we need more help. Specifically, the kinds of roles, I mean, we've been basically kind of freelancing, so people on the board do a little bit of everything. And can I have current board members raise your hands and actually even stand up? Okay. So Robert Horan is on the board, Katrina Sutton, obviously Peter Mackin, Eugene Dunlap, Thomas Hall is the treasurer. We need at least 3 or 4 new people. We lost our note taker and sort of secretary, and let me assure you, we do not keep great notes, so you do not have to be doing this in shorthand or anything else, but just some kind of minimal record of things like motions and action items. I would love to have some help, coordinating speakers and getting them lined up ahead of time. So as past president, it's fallen on my shoulders to help Peter, keep these general meetings organized and the agendas created. That would be kind of almost a specific little job and kind of rewarding because you get to talk to neat people in the community and see about getting their schedules coordinated with ours, as we have people here tonight that will be speaking from outside of our immediate group. We don't all, as all of you know, except Colleen, who is the only total newbie, we move this thing around for any number of reasons, including trying to make it convenient for people from different parts of the community not to have to always be the sacrificial goats to, get through traffic to get here. So, it would be nice to have a coordinator that could work on a year plan of where our general meetings could be. Now we're going from meeting to meeting, I assure you, because again, that one falls on me. Publicity. The secretary was also a guy that put out news releases and tried to get some publicity for our general meetings and some of these other activities we do. And that can be a fun job as well, or just experience. None of these are jobs. I mean, these are experiences. If you have any kind of willingness and availability, we need you. We need that help. Is that a fair?
Absolutely.
And again, what's happening, for example, and I can say this thankfully because he's not here. I mean, because there have been times when I've been seriously worried that Guy was going to drop dead at one of these things. That we have him out there, at 105 degrees, and he's trying to do everything. And, I get probably 3 telephone calls a day from Guy because he's still micromanaging, even though he has no place or immediate need to do so. But we need to have and be able to show him that we can keep his baby alive. So please, look deep in terms of whether you can step up, because I'm looking around this room and, let me just change this, okay? Who is our past board members? Dave was an incredible yeoman for 5 or 6 years. He's paid his dues, for sure. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the corpse just looks really slightly warmed over. Okay, but again, just, it's not something you have to do like Guy the rest of your life. But, think about giving us a year or 2. Board meetings once a month, nice social time over lunch, which you pay for because we don't have any budget to do that. So again, that's our pitch. We really are open, and we'll not even have to have an election because we have 3 openings. We'll just anybody that's willing to step up and particularly target any of these kinds of assignments, you'll become an immediately elected board member. Such power you'll have. Okay, that's our pitch. And Jorge, you did your pitch. So, Colleen, when Colleen came to one of our show and tells this past, actually the Ecos one, with this spectacular new Kona EV, I didn't even know it was available yet, and she ripped one out of the dealer's parking lot to bring and show. So, Colleen, can you give us just a couple of minutes on terms of your experience with the car so far?
Well,
Here, we're sending you the mic.
so I've had the car for a month. I already have 2,000 miles on it. I've been driving it everywhere. It's great handling on the road. When I was headed up to Oroville and the road started twisting and turning, I just put it in sport mode and the steering got tighter and it was perfect. I enjoy driving it. You don't realize you're going as fast as you're actually going when you're on the freeway. I had it for like half a day, and I went and met my friends for dinner, and I'm on the freeway heading back because I snuck away from my husband. I said, hey, I got to go get something to eat. So I was sneaking back because we were at an event. And I said, I got to show my friends this car. My friend calls me, and she says, do you know you're going 85? And I'm like, no, I didn't know that. She's like, slow down so you don't get a ticket. So, I mean, it's fun. It's really fun to drive. The tires are kind of big on it, I think, bigger than the tires that were on my Kia Soul that I had, and I noticed it. But other than that, it's a nice ride, nice handling. I got the limited model, and it charged 298 miles when I first fully charged it. And now it consistently charges at about 290 to if I drive it really hard, it'll charge to I want to say 89. But it's rated for 260. So I'm thinking that 260 is maybe in the worst conditions. Like you're just putting the pedal to the metal. You're speeding up and slowing down or something. You're not driving economically.
There's some of the basic specs for the car off of the corporate website. Again, it's priced competitively with the Model 3 in terms of entry-level price. Right now, the dealers are pretty much holding for MSRP in California if you're lucky. We're hearing that out of state where the demand for EVs is less aggressive, that they're already discounting them. And as many of you know, the Chevy Bolt is discounted as much as $6,000, $7,000, $8,000 because the demand is down on that one. BOLT. Yeah, Mike. And the car, again, the car is sitting out for, inspection back in the garage area, along with this really impressive, cute little Renault Twizy 2-passenger tandem vehicle.
Where's the charging port?
Okay, EVgo, come on up, Ethan. So, yeah, I had how many of us were at the EVgo ribbon cutting? So not that many, but again, we got to find a way through for Ethan to get up here. What basically has happened is Ethan was I'm calling him the site manager, development manager for the first curbside fast charging stations, is that right? In the United States. And Sacramento, because of EVgo and because of that Green Cities grant, was so chosen. Ethan?
Thank you.
And let's see, I should have a picture here. That's a shoe. Come on.
Well,
Inside EVs.
yeah, there's a couple ways you can. Yeah, we got some press, and if
There
you,
it is.
that's a lovely photo I took. I'm pretty happy with the photo. The lighting.
Can you get on the other side?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to move over and just try to stay out of the way. How about that?
Oh, that's
Can you Okay. Maybe you just clip that on your
Yeah.
or put it in your pocket.
My voice projects excessively well. Hi, everybody. Thanks for everybody that that showed up to the event, and this group was really helpful, instrumental in actually helping us test these chargers before they went live. Right, so that was an enormous service, right? In just context for that, to understand how important that was. Right now in this photo, you can see right there, that's a gig bolt, B-O-L-T, right? I can walk up to that with my phone and I can unlock it and I can use that car to plug in on the CCS side of our chargers and test. I couldn't test Chatham without you guys. I couldn't, so thank you.
This is an applause for those of you and others from the our EV group that turned out on short notice to do the testing.
Seriously, like I went to Turo, right? Like, should I have my own personal, as I'm driving up and down, like think about what this scenario is for me, right? For me, if I'm opening up stations in Sacramento or Santa Cruz or Sunnyvale, I have to test that station with a Chatham car and a CCS car, right? Or else did it work? Is it ready for the public? No, it's not ready. So I can go on Turo.com and I can rent an EV if somebody's putting their EV out there, or I could personally, EVgo could have an EV that I'm driving around, or we could have one strategically placed and a community like you guys was extremely valuable for that. So thank you. There's probably a lot of people, since y'all are driving EVs, you already know who EVgo is, right? We kind of, there's ChargePoint, they have a network, there's EVgo, we have a network. Electrify America is building a network, and we just put the first curbside charging in Sacramento. So what does it mean for this to be curbside charging, right? We're in the public right of way here, right? We are not in a Target parking lot. We're not on private land. So what does that actually mean, right? What it means is, first of all, permitting is different, right? Because you're a public works project. And who owns the land that you're on is different, right? The city owns this land. The city owns that park, and they sure as heck own these spaces, these angled spaces on the street, right? So in this case, we're working with the city of Sacramento, and we're going to be working more with the city of Sacramento. All of the usage here, like one additional thing that's worth saying about this, like, is you look at this, you'll notice there's some chargers that are tall and there's some chargers that are a little bit shorter. Does anybody, like, just looking at that wasn't at the opening, right? That's cheating. Like, does anybody can just look at that and tell me what the difference between those two are?
Would be level 2 versus DC fast.
Good guess. Everything here is DC fast.
Okay.
350 kilowatts opposed to 100.
That is the distinction, and the 350. I'm going to give a caveat on that, right? So the main difference between these is it's almost exactly what you said. So the hardware here, right, which is connected to EVgo's back end, you see on this taller unit, this is not actually the power conversion isn't happening in this unit, right? It's happening if you're there. There's another cage, just like when you've seen Tesla's equipment. They have a small dispenser that's it's fairly elegant, but it's not very big, right? The actual power conversion is happening in another box that's maybe 50 feet away. If y'all seen those boxes, those are the ones that make the noise. Those are the ones that make the heat, right? In these 3 boxes, right, the power conversion is happening in that 50 kilowatt charger. In these taller ones, you'll see you can probably tell from this photo, see how they're not as deep? Right. That's just the dispenser. The actual power rectification is happening over there, behind the fence. So for the customer, it looks a little sleeker, but it's also not making as much racket right beside your car, and we need that ancillary equipment to actually do the higher power rectification. Now, these new pieces of equipment, it's a different architecture, right? So those have the capability of carrying higher power, but today they are limited, right? So what makes a charger a 50 kilowatt charger or a 150 kilowatt charger, or well, the connectors on here are rated to carry a certain amount of power, right? So engineer dork here, right? Is the CCS side and the CHAdeMO side, do they have the same rating? No, they don't. The CCS side has a liquid cooled cable, right? The CHAdeMO side does not. And that liquid cooled cable makes the cable, you'll notice these guys, they have, you pull it down and it has a much longer cable. You can only make the cable, if you're transmitting a lot of power very fast through a cable, what happens to the cable?
It's hot.
Yeah.
So then you have to pass a liquid through the cable to carry that heat away, and that's where we're at now. We're at the edge of physics, right?
Well, there's a caveat. It's
Go ahead.
Superconducting, you won't get hot.
If it's super,
Superconducting.
I
You gotta keep it cold.
it's keeping things very cold requires a little bit of energy.
Well, insulated really well.
Everything in the future. Here's where we are today.
Peter, you're being a troublemaker.
So, I could obviously there's a bunch more things I could say about EVgo and where we are and where we're going, and just to say a few things about that, right? We've been around for a while, right? 2010, we were part of a large utility called NRG, right? More recently, you could call us EVgo 2.0. We're an independent company now. We're not owned by a utility, and we're deploying infrastructure, with funding partners, and we're going to do some self-funding, right? We've worked with Nissan. We've worked with we've worked with Maven. Maven is a subsidiary of General Motors, right? And so one of the big things that made us, the initial plan for this site, we only had 3 chargers going in, and we were going to do 3 more if there was demand, right? Demand matters for our business, right? I can't just go put in infrastructure in Wichita, Kansas, where there aren't any EV drivers yet, right? What does that do to my business? It's nothing good, right? So, if you build it, they will come, that's one thing, but you also have to build it where they are. So we were gonna put in 3, and then we saw, well, Sacramento had this program with Gig, and they are about to put in 350 Chevy Bolts in this city. 260, sorry for the cameras. 260 Chevy Bolts, well, okay, let's put in all 6. And these 350 kilowatt chargers, does the Chevy Bolt need a 150 kilowatt charger? No, it does not. So these guys, a little bit shorter, a little bit fatter, not as sleek. They don't have the beautiful blue LED, but they have a longer cable and they charge that Chevy Bolt just as fast as it can take the juice. Question in the back.
I'm counting here maybe about a megawatt altogether. Did you have to go through anything special with the utility, and was it very expensive to get the connections?
Great question. So the infrastructure to make something like this happen is not cheap, and working with SMUD was a delight compared to every utility is its own beast. Every utility is its own beast. Anybody who's out there who is working on the utility infrastructure side, I appreciate you. You're all doing the best you can, and we're all working on this together, and we need those utility partners. SMUD was great to work with, and it helps that the city of Sacramento works alongside them, right? So bring the power here, we have a brand new transformer that was set by SMUD. Right, so we have a power drop from their 13 kVA, we're talking local distribution. We have a riser that brings that right down their utility pole. We trenched right across 6th Street. So if you zoomed out from this, you'd see there's a trench line going right across there. Brought in power to a new transformer, and then it goes straight to our 480 volt switchgear, which, for electrical engineers in the house, we then hit individual breakers for each charger. And in that fenced equipment area where there's that switchgear, there's also our power cabinets that serve these ones. And of course, we have the provisions, we have the ability, I built this out, so that in the future, we can make them all 150 kilowatt chargers when it's appropriate.
So quickly, at this stage, because we need to
Go.
transition, what other sites are you working on in the greater Northern California region?
So currently, today, in the Northern California area, I personally have projects that are going to be opening in the, let's say, in the next couple of months in Northern California. That includes Foster City. There will be a station opening in Foster City. There will be a station opening in Millbrae. There is, these projects are, you're going to see social media station after station after station. We have, I want to say, at least 5 stations that are going to be opening in the next 2 months.
A couple more questions, and we need to transition.
2 questions, Ray. I only see 5 chargers. Why is one separate on all the way?
Really good question. Thank you for teeing that up. So this site was originally designed to have everything maybe a little bit closer together, and there was an assumption that these trees could be dealt with. These trees, this is the city of trees. I am glad those trees stayed. They look beautiful in the springtime, and there's nothing that makes me happier than having a I'd love a solar canopy as well, but that is a beautiful canopy to have over our chargers. So let them coexist. I love that. I saw your hand up earlier. I don't want to ignore you.
Well, the second question, and then another big setup like this in Sacramento?
More like this? There will be more of this coming. I cannot give you a date or a location yet, but stay tuned. EVgo is not going away from Sacramento.
Dave had his hand up.
One very important thing, you've got to get it on PlugShare because it's not there.
It is. Sacramento Southside Park. It was the other day. If somebody took us down, I already had comments on it.
I could do that. And the other thing, your signs, do you have anything on your signs to have people towed who are ICEs or sitting there longer than a certain amount of time, threaten these people to get them off?
Great. So what we have going on there's 2 signs, and those 2 signs per the city of Sacramento give them the ability to tow somebody. We have a 2-hour parking limit. EVgo, we only charge, you can be connected for an hour, then you're at 80% charge. Take your hour and move on. But we are not going to, it is not appropriate for us to set the limit for the city to say, they're going to tow you, 15 minutes, give somebody a break to get their coffee and come back, but then move on, right? So in 2 hours, the city has the ability to tow you.
One last question.
Okay, so since the really fast chargers you're installing are about future EVs that are coming, what's the price difference between those 50 kilowatt chargers and those 350 kilowatt hour chargers for your guys' install?
The price of the hardware for us. Yeah. I can't put that on camera, but I'll say since the question I was hoping you were asking was are they more expensive for the customer to charge on, and there's 2 prices for when people are connecting to our equipment and charging their cars. One of them is a membership price. One of them is just pay as you go, and they're both Google EVgo and pricing, and they come right up.
Okay, everybody.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Don't run off.
I won't.
We need you.
Well, many of you guys here mentioned I'm a SacEV board advisor member. I'm the quasi-treasurer. And outside of this, I promote clean tech companies as Clean Start. And every year there's something called Startup Weekend where people come in with ideas and problems that they see, and they try to build businesses around them. So I was excited to hear at the recent Startup Weekend last month that the winner was around promoting electric vehicles. Now, how many of you was your first EV a Tesla? So some of you don't know the pain of going to a Chevy dealership or a dealership that doesn't want to sell you an EV.
I do.
I do.
Because I tried to get my brother and sister-in-law to check it out, and there was nothing in Chula Vista and San Diego. They don't even have them in the showrooms. In every showroom, they had none. They didn't know what I was talking about.
So as many of us here are so involved in EVs, you know, we kind of forget that there's a whole segment of people out there that aren't as knowledgeable about us, and it kind of sometimes is frustrating.
Stay closer to the mic.
And it's sometimes kind of frustrating to find out that to find out that when they do studies that we're struggling to move the needle on how many people know about EVs or where their local charging is. So I'm excited to introduce EVlife. Kevin here made a team that came up with an idea of how to increase people buying EVs, and I'll let him tell you about his experience, and he's looking for advice too. So
Thank you, Thomas. All right.
10 minutes or less, Kevin.
I'll do it in 9.
Okay, that would be.
All right. Great. Thank you, Thomas. My name is Kevin from EVlife. We are not even a company yet. We are a startup. We are an idea. We are enthusiasm and excitement that we are trying to channel into a business. Thomas talked to you about Startup Weekend. That happened in Folsom in the beginning of April. It's an accelerator. It's a 54-hour intense event where a bunch of strangers come together. They pitch ideas to each other on Friday night. The top ideas rise to the top. The crowd votes on them, and then if your idea gets voted on, you take your sign off the wall and you go try and find people in the building to be on your team for that weekend. So there's engineers, developers, coders, designers, marketing, lawyers, business people, whoever is there. You try and go source the kind of people that you need to help your idea come to fruition. This isn't necessary, but it's my guide, so I'm gonna run through my slides for me. The team that we had participating, it's not cheating, but we were trying to be as efficient as possible. So we actually brought our team to the Startup Weekend. It's a team that we built from past coworkers, from friends. We've known each other for a long time. Between the 5 of us, we've had 5 acquisitions and startups. We've had over 50 years of startup experience and 50 years of coding and development experience. So experience building mobile and web apps for consumers, for customers across cars, solar, travel. So kind of I was really excited for the team that we put together. We met a month before Startup Weekend. Every week we met with each other. We pitched ideas to each other. By the end, we had about 16 ideas on a Google Doc, and we would debate, we would research, we would talk about it, discuss, and then we would come back the next week and try and see if anything was bubbling up to the top. We had 2 principles in mind that we wanted to try and have an idea around, and one of them was around the theme of sustainability. We wanted to try and build a business and come up with an idea around sustainable efforts. And then the other thing is that we have a lot of experience on our team working with data, lots of data, and then distilling that data, synthesizing it for a consumer. And so we were excited about the idea to take a sustainable concept or a sustainable theme and apply data to help consumers make more informed decisions. And so those are kind of our guiding principles. We happened to have someone on our team that Bruno has experience working at cars.com. He understood the lead model and understood how lucrative it was. We took that, ran with that, paired it with EVs, and we're like, okay, hey, what about electric vehicle lead generator? That's the idea we brought to Startup Weekend. Our idea surfaced. We got voted on. We worked for 54 hours on this idea, trying to figure it out. So we are not, I'll be very honest with you, we are not a wealth of EV knowledge. So that's one of the reasons I was really excited for Thomas to ask me here. We ended up winning first place. Through that win, I was connected with Thomas. Thomas and I met a couple weeks ago. He asked me to come here. So that's why I'm here today. When we were working together before Startup Weekend, there was a couple stats that really struck out at us that made us feel like we were onto something. One of them is that, and this is the 2016 stat, so by now it's even larger, but I'll say 90% of driving habits today could be satisfied with the fleet of electric vehicles on the road today. Yet, and this is a tough stat to nail down too, I'll say 2%, I'm probably being very generous, 2% of the vehicles on the road today are electric. So why is there this giant gap? How come the supply can meet the driving habits of almost everyone in the US, but only 2% of the vehicles sold are electric?
And then the other thing, another quote that really appealed to us was, your math about buying an electric car is probably wrong. That's from a Fast Company article. Consumers are constantly overestimating the cost of an electric vehicle, and they're underestimating the benefits of owning an electric vehicle. And so with all that information, plus with what we already know about Volkswagen going full electric, we know there's 11 countries banning gas and diesel by 2040, cost competitive, unsubsidized by 2024, charging, batteries, everything is going in the direction where this is going to be a major shift in our economy, in the world's economy. And so we want to try and help. Our goal is to help accelerate that shift and to amplify the voices like the ones in this room through a consumer level product. In Startup Weekend, they help you with a process of testing and validating your idea. All of us have ideas. This is the problem. Well, is your problem real? How many people have that problem? And of those people that have that problem, are they willing to pay? Because if you're not willing to pay, you don't have a business. So Startup Weekend helped us go through this really rigid process, and we were working from 9 to midnight every single day for that weekend. And it really helped us focus on what is the problem, what are some ideas of solutions. Startups, by their very nature, don't know what they're doing when they start. That's what's kind of exciting about it. You have a hypothesis, and then you go test and you iterate. You fail, you take that back to the drawing board, you apply it to the next round of tests. And so that's kind of what we're doing. In that weekend, one of the things we did was we went out and talked to consumers. We went to charging stations to talk to EV owners. We went to farmers markets and on the street to talk to non-EV owners. And we went to dealerships to talk to people that are invested in maybe selling EVs or maybe trying to dissuade you from buying an EV. And we found that. We went to one dealership, and they were like, if you want to save the environment, go donate to the Nature Conservancy. And it was like, I was really disappointed to hear that. We went to another one that really had no idea about rebates or what a customer needs to know. And then we went to another one where they had a specialist on site, and the guy just sat with us and talked with us. And once we disclosed that we were not going to buy, he kept sitting with us and talking with us. And you can tell that his passion was where it needs to be to help someone along. So what we learned, the struggle that customers are having buying an EV, and I don't have an EV, so I have a minivan, but from the research and what I just intuitively know, buying an EV is not like buying a car. It has wheels, they have brakes, they go, but they are different machines. And when you buy one, you have to, the customer is thinking about a whole range of issues that an ICE customer doesn't have to think about. Okay? Exactly, range, right? So that's the number one thing that the feedback from these people that we talk to, these strangers that we talk to, is range anxiety. Range anxiety is real. People are petrified of it. I'll do 1 minute. I don't know, maybe I needed 2. Range anxiety, fear of making the wrong decision. People are afraid that they're going to be getting into this thing that they really don't understand, and then they're going to be stuck with this thing, and all I really need to do is to get my kids to soccer practice. I don't need to be worrying about battery life. I don't need to be worrying about range and if I can get there from here to there. And then the other thing is lack of education. There's just, like I said, there's so many things that we need to think about as an EV purchaser. There's a lot of research and education that has to be done before you even walk into the dealership. And if we're going to be like taking moving out of early adoption into mass adoption, we have to be sending people to the dealership that are going to be confident enough that they're going to be fighting against what the dealer is trying to do, which is not sell them an EV. So we have to educate, we have to build confidence, we have to build a consumer that knows what they want and understands the benefits of going electric. So again, the goal: connect well-informed, confident buyers with motivated sellers. I'm rushing now. Again, we are new. I don't have a whole suite of things for you to look at. We have ideas. We are researching. I'm connecting Thomas. I've connected with Heath already. I've connected with like 6 other people in just the last 2 weeks. Everybody has been very, very helpful, and it's keeping a bonfire under my feet, and I love it. So, but our idea, we have what I believe are some pretty novel and innovative technical ideas to help consumers really envision themselves owning an electric vehicle, coupled with resources and content and nurturing campaigns to help them get the information they need to build that confidence, to build a buyer that will be able to withstand the negative pressure from a dealer.
So real quickly, what's the base thing that you're working with on the consumer end to help them figure out what they need?
So yeah, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to commit because we're still hashing that out. But the idea is that it will be some sort of a tool. We don't know what it looks like yet. It's a tool that will help analyze driving habits and apply existing data on range for existing vehicles to their own driving habits to show if they would be a good candidate for an electric vehicle or not. And based on that stat, about 90% of habits would suffice with a current EV. We think that a lot of people are going to be kind of blown away. Our goal, I don't know if you've ever gone into a cell phone store, if you've had an unlimited data plan, and they say, hey, do you know how much data you use? And you say no, and you ask them, tell me for the last year how much data have I been using each month? And they say 2 gigs. Well, why am I paying for an unlimited plan if I'm only using 2 gigs? You get that data, you can make a better informed decision. Our goal is to show people that their driving habits will be fine, and they'll be safe, and they'll be okay. And if they're not, we're going to be able to show them how far in your day were you ever away from a charger, and give people the cushion, the validation that this is the right decision. We all know it's the right decision, but you guys are all early adopters, so you're not the target customer. You guys are the ones that have to help amplify, but we need to show consumers that they are also the target customer, even though they're not early adopters. So that's about it.
Good job.
Thank you. If you go to EVlife.co, you can sign up right now just to get on our mailing list, so that when we do have some specific announcements, we have a way to reach you.
.co, not .com.
Not .com.
.co.
If anybody wants to give us $125,000, we can have a comm tonight.
So that's a perfect transition to Kathryn Garcia, who's here from Sierra Club, to talk about another facet of promoting EVs and conscientious living circumstances through legislation and legislative action. Kathryn?
Thank you. Do I have a thing for moving the slides, or?
You can just tap that.
Okay, I'll just hold this. Okay, hello everybody. My name is Kathryn Garcia, and I'm with Sierra Club. You want to raise your hand if you've heard of Sierra Club? Anybody? All right, awesome. So there are chapters all over the country and all over the state, and most of the chapters host hikes and outings and meetings and fun stuff to get people to connect with people who are really enjoying nature. I actually work at Sierra Club California, which consists of policy advocates and organizers, and so we actually don't get to participate in the day-to-day fun stuff, but we really see our work centered around making sure that the planet is healthy for future generations, so you can go hiking in 20, 30 years with your family and we'll have good air quality and a healthy planet. And so this is my Chevy Bolt. This is right in front of the Capitol here in Sacramento. And so Sierra Club California, I just put the mission up here to promote the preservation, restoration, enjoyment of California's environment and enable chapters and grassroots activists to speak with one voice to promote California conservation. And so in terms of policy advocacy, my sector is clean transportation. So that involves EVs, obviously, but also reducing congestion, promoting public transportation, biking, walking, and other sorts of mobility, e-bikes, of course. And so in terms of the statistic that we constantly cite, it's here in California, transportation is the single largest and fastest growing source of greenhouse gas emissions. So we want to curb that. And my whole strategy to advancing EVs is really for meeting clean air targets and reducing greenhouse gas emissions, climate pollution. And we have a serious urgency to reduce emissions as quickly as possible here in California. And so in terms of advocacy in Sacramento, we usually support bills that accelerate adoption for EVs, and will oppose bills that pose a threat to EV adoption or are promoting polluting alternative fuel vehicles. So that's kind of how we make decisions on the bills that our legislative committee decides to take a position on, support, or oppose. So I want to talk about 6 key EV bills here in 2019 that we're working on. They're centered around either light-duty vehicles, heavy-duty vehicles, and also EV infrastructure. And when I go through these 6 bills pretty quickly, I'm going to talk about where they are in the legislative process. There are some bills that are actually, unfortunately, inactive. They're dead for the year, for 2019. They can come back in 2020, but at this point, for whatever reason, I'll kind of go through it, they're just not advancing in the legislative process. There are a few that are what's called the Appropriations Committee, and these are bills that the committee has determined that they pose a fiscal impact, and so like the state would have to worry about implementation. And so what they do is kind of analyze what is that fiscal impact and then decide if it goes onto the floor for a vote. But basically that's kind of a threshold where they figure out whether it's going to advance or not. And then there's one bill actually that has already finished its course through the Assembly. It's moving on to the Senate, set to be heard in a policy committee, and it's gotten out of the first house, is what we like to say. Okay. So the first one is Assembly Bill 40. This would require CARB to develop a strategy. Assemblymember Ting is from San Francisco, and he really gets it. He is excited about EVs. He drives a Bolt himself, and he is just ready for us to meet our clean air targets. He says, everybody deserves to breathe clean air, so we need to accelerate EV adoption. Unfortunately, this bill is inactive. We have a very strong oil lobbying contingency here in Sacramento, and they just put a target on this bill. They said it was going to be a huge threat. The Chamber of Commerce said that this was a job killer, and they used all of their might to try to stop this bill. So unfortunately, this one will not be moving forward this year. I'm very disappointed. This was one of my key projects. I led a coalition on this one. But there are a lot of other bills that we're moving forward on. And so hopefully sometime soon we'll be able to plan a strategy to really accelerate so that all new light-duty vehicles sold in the state are zero emission. So this next one is pretty exciting. Assemblymember Ting has seen that with CVRP, there is a shortage of money in CVRP. What his intent here was that CVRP really, the model hasn't changed in the last 5 years.
Can you define that acronym?
Yes, it's the Clean Vehicle Rebate Project. And so, so really, CVRP hasn't changed in the last 5 years, and we want to have it be more closely linked to a sustainable consumer market, because as we know, there aren't enough EVs out there. You know, we've made progress thanks to you all, but we have a long way to go, and so we want to make sure that CVRP is sustainable to move and really make a dent into the market. And so this bill is still moving forward. It's in the Appropriations Committee right now, and so hopefully it will continue advancing.
Do you know what the bill is actually proposing to change?
Yeah, it's not like a set in stone type of thing. It really just tells CARB that they need to make modifications to it so that it's more sustainable. What ended up happening is when CVRP came into fruition, they didn't realize how quickly it was going to accelerate, and the adoption has just exponentially accelerated. And so they're not the money in the
kitty.
The money in the kitty is not lasting the entire year. When, you know, at this point they're saying that it's probably going to run out, you know, in the summer. And so how do we make changes so that it continues to be accessible to people?
So is it the right direction to
modify the program to live within a continued minimal budget as opposed to recognizing that we want to grow the vehicle population and that requires more incentives?
So that's what they're going to be looking at. I mean, that's the key issue.
Kathryn, that's a CARB employee.
Great.
Just wanted to make sure you knew who the spies were.
We are in support of this bill, and so we'll see where it goes.
I've seen the draconian proposals, and nobody's going to like them. Nobody has liked them during the work group meetings we've had.
Okay. So I don't know if, did you end up connecting to the internet?
Not that computer. My computer's connected.
Okay.
Or I can give you the password. So
I think since we're running out of time, I'll just give you some context. So I was going to play a quick video. This is a video that Sierra Club produced to talk about the amount of pollution that's attributed to the freight industry. This is another key initiative that we have to reduce pollution from freight. And so we released this video right around the time of Cyber Monday when everybody is on Amazon and getting their packages, and we wanted to underscore the issues around pollution with freight. And so I wanted to show this video which kind of talks about, this is a very busy freeway system in Los Angeles, and over the course of a minute it counts the number of semi-trucks and medium heavy-duty vehicles that are going through here and really polluting the air that these residents breathe. And so that was my segue to explaining some of the bills in terms of the freight bills that we're going to be talking about. This first one is Assembly Bill 1411 by Assembly Member Gomez Reyes from San Bernardino. Yes?
Is that video available on your website?
It's not available on our website. It's available on YouTube, and I can actually send around a link after, or just give you the name of it if you're interested. We could talk about it after.
His name is Link, so that you can just, and he's our webmaster, so he can, if you give it to him, he can make it available to all of us.
Awesome.
That will link it up. Bad pun. Yeah.
So this is an example of an electric vehicle UPS truck. This is right in front of the Secretary of State here in Sacramento. So this was a very important bill that would update the the Integrated Action Plan for Sustainable Freight. Unfortunately, this is another one of the inactive ones. It's the second one of two of the inactive ones that I'm going to be talking about. Assemblymember Gomez Reyes felt a huge amount of pressure to weaken the bill, and unfortunately she had to pull back rather than having a weakened bill pass that wasn't going to improve the lives of our residents. And so that one unfortunately may come back next year. But we really do want to see deployment of zero-emission medium and heavy-duty vehicles. And what's great about the medium and heavy-duty EVs is that just like with light-duty vehicles, they get the benefits of reduced operating costs. Okay.
Just if anybody has a business in this area, SMUD has a grant to carry at least a significant part of the purchase of about 8 medium-duty delivery and service trucks, vehicles. So if anybody has a business, contact me or Guy that can hook you up to the SMUD person who's looking for businesses that would like to get on board and have significant parts of the cost deferred.
That's awesome. Yeah. This next one, SB 44 from Senator Skinner in San Francisco, this would provide a roadmap for meeting California's climate and air quality targets. This is, she calls it the Ditch Dirty Diesel Bill, which is great. And SB 44 is currently in the Appropriations Committee, and we're hopefully going to get this out. Basically what it does is in terms of CARB, it has CARB update the 2016 Mobile Source Plan to include a sustainable freight strategy in that plan. Okay. this is the awesome bill that has already gone out of the Assembly and is geared up to be heard in the Senate Policy Committee. So this one is really moving quickly. AB 1400 with Assembly Member Kamlager Dove. She's from Los Angeles. And this is a really common sense bill. Basically what she saw was that in terms of the California Building Code, a charging spot does not equate to a parking spot. And so she said, you know, what the hell, this isn't fair. And so she wants to make it so in terms of the building code, each parking space, even if it has a charger, is still counted as a parking space. And what's interesting about this is that she was seeing in some communities that maybe weren't as keen on EVs coming in. What they would do to the EV charging companies was say, you know, if you want to create this into a charging spot, you may have to create a whole nother parking spot to replace that. And so that's just not fair. We don't need more parking spaces, we need more charging spaces. And so this is really moving forward and we're supporting this bill. And then my last one is also in terms of infrastructure. This is AB 684 from Marin County. And this has to do with multi-unit dwellings. So updating the Department of Housing and Community Development and mandating that they set building standards for existing multi-unit dwellings. And this one is also in appropriations, and we're hoping that it will get out of appropriations and move on to the floor for a vote. So that concludes my overview of the bills that we're working on. This is my Bolt again in Tahoe. And so just my ask is get involved, be an EV advocate. I gave you all a lot of information in terms of air quality and reducing greenhouse gas emissions, but the average person who's about to go buy the next car doesn't want to get bored about, you know, helping the planet. They want to really know, does this car perform? Is this fast? Is it fun to drive? And so all of you who have EVs, please share the word and tell them how fun this car is. And it's for the future, it's for the next generation, but it's also a great car to drive.
A couple questions right here.
Yeah, I just wanted to bring up, I'm not sure if you've heard about what happened in Colorado last week, where grassroots EV owners really pushed forward the idea of making it illegal for ICE vehicles to park in EV spots, and that actually just passed in the Colorado legislature last week, to where now there's going to be a $150 fine levied for any ICE vehicle, and that literally was put forward and brought to the legislature's attention by EV owners groups in Colorado. So just proof that, you know, groups like this, people like you can, you know, it doesn't all have to be lots and lots and lots of huge hurdles.
Right.
Sometimes you actually can get legislation pushed through.
Well, and again, just, I think, before we have any more questions, let's just give Kathryn a round of applause for all the things that Sierra Club has been doing and continues to do, because these are points of specific attention and influence. And, you know, without that, those lobbyists are on the other side working their butts off, you know, to maintain the status quo. So again, there were a couple of, Thomas, you had your hand up?
Is there any legislation you guys are looking at for heavy-duty off-road vehicles being electrified? Like farm equipment, construction, manufacturing?
CARB is working on that. CARB is working on that. There are some bills that they're looking at, like in terms of the legislature, off-road equipment. There's actually a bill that is for off-road equipment that has to do with the Carl Moyer program, and it is saying that they want grant funding for to move it over to like natural gas type vehicles, and so we're opposing that. So, so I think CARB is the one that's really working on making sure that there's EV options for off-road and like farming equipment.
Heath?
Just real quickly, you are coordinating with Plug in America and the national EV organizations, right?
Yeah, so Sierra Club is a national partner with Plug in America for Drive Electric Week, and in April we had EV Month, Earth Day.
He's also a Plug in American employee.
Yeah.
So what he's really saying for the lobbying.
Kathryn specifically.
Yeah. I know Jay also, with Jay from Plug in America.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And by the way, he's a PhD in environmental sciences. So again, very committed to the environment.
Excellent. Yeah, so I'm very close with them.
Great one.
On that parking lot, the parking space bill, that's really important because in building codes, you have to have certain numbers of spaces
Yes.
per the square footage of the building. So if putting in EV infrastructure is going to change that, then it may be an obstacle to actually even getting it put in a lot of places.
That's
because
why
they
this
won't
bill is
meet
such
meet
an
their
important
requirements.
That was the intent of the bill, to change that so that if it has charging infrastructure there, it doesn't count against the minimum parking requirement.
Right.
That's exactly the reason why she introduced the bill, and that's what we're hoping to change.
One last question, and then we'll go to our informal.
My question's uninteresting. I'll ask you later.
Okay, so again, we've got social time now to actually go one-on-one for another 20 minutes or so before they throw us out of the building. Try to pick up your garbage.
So those are the Audi A3,
Sportback e-tron.
and they're not interested in selling them.
Nope, because they have this one, the all-electric one, that costs twice as much and goes a big 204 miles. And look at the Volt. The Volt, that's a good vehicle. It dropped all the way down to 405.
Yeah. Oh, it's a terrific vehicle. To discontinue that is pure stupidity.
I agree.
Yeah, that's a nice car. They put so high tariffs on it, they can't bring it in. Yeah, that's the only reason.
Oh my God.
They put so high tariffs on it. It's made in Spain.